Hey, what's going on back at Hofstra? How's our guys doing back there?
Good, man. Who do you mean in terms of like the radio station
Yeah,
and stuff, or
you keep in touch with anybody up there now? And
a couple of guys? I keep in touch with like the sports information guys, and like the basketball coach and stuff. But yeah, they're good. Everybody's good.
That's
They were
good.
pissed, they were going to the tournament this year.
I know. I texted Mihalik and I said, congratulations, because I used to do a bunch of games still, even after Delaware and whatnot. And he was like, "Hey, that's great. I'm looking forward to it." And I was like, so excited. Like literally, that was like 3 or 4 days before all this stuff went down. Like we didn't have any idea stuff was going to get canceled. I'm like,
Yeah.
so what was that? The first time for them and since
Oh,
oh
one.
oh one, yeah,
Oh,
Speedy Claxton.
that's right.
Yep. How long
Crazy.
have how long have you been in NBA TV now?
So this is my ninth season with Turner.
Okay.
But I mean, you just say my ninth season, but I did some stuff when they were still up in Secaucus. But you know, I I was doing the TNT stuff this year too, which was cool, and it's just been yeah, I can't believe it's been 9 seasons. It's wild. Yeah,
That's awesome. I see you.
yeah,
I see you with Shaq a lot.
yeah.
How's Shaq? Give me a little like behind the scenes of what it's like hanging out with that guy.
He's awesome, man. He's like it's the cool thing about our place is that like there's no ego with anybody. There's no prima donnas. There's no, high maintenance stuff. You hear horror stories of other places or other scenarios, but everybody's there to have fun. Everybody takes their job seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously, and I think it kind of translates to what you see on TNT and on NBA TV.
Yeah, and you do that too. I mean, I've watched you a bunch. I mean, and that's what's cool
Thanks.
because I mean, I know you from back in the day, and it's like the
Yeah.
same thing. We want to be ourselves a little bit too. I mean, do you kind of feel that you get an opportunity to do that a little bit more at this
Yeah.
establishment than in some places where like I'm a
Yeah.
broadcaster. I don't like being like that.
Oh my goodness, totally. Um, and the biggest lesson that gets talked about a lot is the viewer's not stupid. Like if the person who's sitting at home sees something crazy happen and you're too embarrassed to talk about it, or you don't want to point out a flaw in the broadcast, then that's just making it stick out even more. Like have fun with it. If somebody falls, or if somebody says something crazy, you're not there to embarrass them, but you're there to have fun. And I think that's the tone that gets set with Charles and Shaq, and certainly Ernie. That you just kind of want to be chill, and you're there to talk basketball. I think that's what's made this whole scenario so wild for everybody. Is typically there's some hard hitting stuff happening around the world, and people tune into us to get a load off, and it's just basketball. It's not politics, it's not religion, it's not the economy. There's nobody fighting wars. It's just basketball, and now we don't even have that.
I know it's tough. Hey, give me how's Ernie Johnson? I'll tell you, his father was friends with a neighbor on my street growing
Yeah,
up way back in Brattleboro, Vermont. So I kind of and I've been watching Ernie. I mean, just from
yeah,
as a kid, Ernie Johnson in Atlanta. I mean, that's what I can remember. How
yeah.
cool is that
He is as authentic as any human being's ever been that I've ever met. He's as genuine and as nice and caring as a person I've ever met. The first real taste of that I got was my first season. I'm actually, I should say it was my second season. I moved down to Atlanta in January of 2012, right after the lockout had ended and the season started. And it was kind of a whirlwind experience for me. And we're going right into the next season. And about a week or two before Thanksgiving, he turned to me and he said, he goes, so you fly him. He knew us from the Northeast, and I had just moved down from Atlanta, and I wasn't married, didn't have any friends, just learning, friends and finding friends, whatever it is. And turns to me and he goes, so what are you doing for Thanksgiving? Are you flying back to home? And I said, no, I had to work on Wednesday and then I had to work again on Friday. So I don't have an opportunity to fly home for Thursday. He goes, oh, well, then you're coming to my house for Thanksgiving. And it was just like the craziest thing. I ended up not going to his house. I felt bad, like I was imposing. It felt weird. I should have taken him up on it, but he's invited me to his Christmas party, which I've gone to every year since I've been here. And he's just the most down to earth guy. His story is wild. I'm sure you've seen it and you know all about it. But like, what he does and how much he cares about the community and people around him. And he works his ass off too. And that's like, I still find myself when I watch him on TNT, kind of like taking mental notes or sometimes actually taking real notes, just because of how well prepared he is on everything he does. And I could get into stories about he's technically, during the regular NBA season, he's only on one day a week. He's on Thursday nights. But what he does, and if there's aspiring broadcasters watching this, they'll probably love this type of stuff. Every night of the NBA season, every night, even though he's only on once a week on Thursdays, at the end of each night, he goes back and charts each game and takes notes on every single game that happened that night in the NBA. And by hand and some by computer, he charts different things, like whether it's 50-point scores, 40-point scores. If something significant happened in that game, he'll put a note down. So if that team ever pops up in a conversation in 2 weeks, 3 months, or 4 months down the road, he's got a note on that team from whenever. And it's just crazy the amount of work he pours into doing television, one day a week.
That's amazing. No,
Yeah.
it's awesome to hear that, because I mean, when you respect somebody and you like somebody, you grow up watching them, and to hear you talk about them like that, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I was back in the day too, when we only had the one game a week or 2 games a week, TNT, TBS. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, I looked through the whole thing. So I'm a huge Celtics fan, growing up in New England, and I'm like, oh, when are they on?
Yeah. No, I mean, I never, even when I, signed to work at Turner, at the end of 2011 into 2012, I really didn't fully imagine I would get the opportunity to work with Ernie or Charles. I came in the same season as Shaq. We were both rookies together at Turner. But the opportunities have evolved, and be able to be shoulder to shoulder with those guys on a lot of opportunities has been absolutely wild. You learn so much from them. You have so much fun. And, you're right. Like, you grew up even watching, back in the day, Sunday Night Football on TNT, back when they had that. And, and then watching TNT, watching the NBA on TNT, it's kind of the gold standard for what people look for in a broadcast for, particularly the NBA, right? So it's just so fun to be on with those guys so often.
It's great. My favorite is trying to watch Charles talk about the NCAA when you guys on the market.
Yeah, he's done a lot over the years. He's done a lot. He's gotten a lot better. He does a lot more homework, and it's crazy that those guys want to do that, but he loves it.
He's like, I don't know anything about college basketball, but if I had to start a team, I'd pick this guy.
Right.
No, he's great. No, that's really cool. What happened? So what have you been up to now? Like when the whole shutdown? I mean, what do you have going on? What have you been working on? What's the situation?
Yeah, so it hasn't been much, but the stuff I've had the opportunity to do has been really cool. I'm actually sitting. The reason why I'm sitting with this all here is just because I just got done taping a show from home on NBA TV that'll air later tonight on NBA TV. Was on today with Greg Anthony. But it's been about once, maybe twice a week. I do a show, and it's a combination of either just kind of like a news recap show of what's gone on, the latest rumors, reports, or statements that have been put out. And the other shows that I've done, if I've been looking for like silver linings of positivity to take out of this very unique and unfortunate circumstance we've all been through over the last 3+ months. And so what I've done is a bunch of shows where I, just like you and I are doing this right now, where we're looking at each other, and then we're watching a game, and I do it with a player. So, like for example, Trey Young had his first 50-point game this year, and him and I watched the fourth quarter of that 50-point game together, and we just talked through it. I did that with also, and what maybe the coolest thing I've done in a really long time was I had Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet on from the Toronto Raptors, and we watched Game 6 with them, the NBA championship clinching victory over the Warriors from last June. And Fred and Pascal, who had not seen each other since, the whole shutdown, were just going at each other. It was crazy. We were watching this, and they're watching the game. And for them, they hadn't watched the game at all yet. This was the first time that they were watching it. They were getting mad at the referees. They were getting mad at each other for missing assignments, for not throwing each other the ball. And they were like screaming at each other. It was crazy. At one point, I had to stop and be like, fellas, you realize that you won this game, right? Like you won a championship. And it was so much fun. And we would never do stuff like that. Obviously we have the technology to do it now, but you would think more mainstream, like bring guys into the studio. We would never bring guys into the studio to watch an old game and just go through it. And I think this kind of opened up the door for us to maybe do more of this stuff, that we don't need like a global pandemic to recognize the technology we have at our fingertips. And, it's great to be in the friendly confines of a, multi-million-dollar studio with all these bells and whistles, but, people at home really enjoy hearing people just, kind of shoot the what and talk hoops. And so for us, it's been really cool for me in particular to get that interaction with the guys, hear some of their stories about, what they've been going through, how they're trying to stay in shape, some of the obstacles they've had to overcome, their thoughts on coming back. So, it's obviously not been ideal, but the limited work that I've been able to get, that we're doing, I should say, it's been enjoyable.
That's awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, and you're right.
Yeah.
We never really did any of that until something like this happened. I bet you're going to do more of it too. I mean,
Yeah.
I would look forward to like old school stuff. I mean, if I got to like watch or hang on, see Larry Bird talking about like 86 a game. I mean, you could always give him an interview at the end of a game, but you don't get what's really going through his mind throughout the entire game. Like that's pretty cool. I mean, I kind of really like that. The Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, watching that whole thing, because I mean, that was, I couldn't even believe where they got the behind the scenes footage and all that kind of stuff. And I actually liked that it was uncensored, to be honest with you, like talking about what we said. You hear what everybody truly believes, and that's pretty cool.
No, I enjoyed it too. And that's kind of the vision that Adam Silver had. Remember back in the day, he was in charge of NBA entertainment, and he kind of helped broker that deal with the Bulls, Phil Jackson, and Michael Jordan to say, okay, we're going to do something we've never done before, which is put cameras with you all the time. And then we'll figure out how and when to use it at a later date. But that now that type of stuff happens. There's cameras everywhere now.
Do you laugh at this like as much as I do when that, and I get it because they're trying to keep everything safe and whatever. You're not going to be able to put this out to the fans, like the real stuff. But whenever you see like Wired or, the coaches in the huddle, I like, it's like, and it's like, and what it was like, it's like the coach is like this, like, come on guys, we're working hard. I like the energy here. Like, seriously. And I know what goes on behind the scenes of like how much they got to get cleared before they can air any of this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, seriously. It's nothing compared like what the coach is really saying.
I know we talk about it all the time in our meetings going into games. But just to give some people some behind the scenes of what goes down. So, there's a whole section of our production truck. Sometimes there's an entire truck dedicated to audio, and there's a person from our crew who's listening to that, but there's also a person from the NBA league office, from the broadcasting department, who's sitting right there with them. And there's certain things that we have in agreement with the Coaches Association that we're not allowed to air. And then there's some common sense things too, right? Like you don't want to give away strategy. You don't want to give away play calling. And then you have to be sensitive towards, certain conversations that are private. And the coaches also, which becomes a little bit of an issue sometimes, the coaches have a mute button on their mic pack. and they have the ability to turn it off. And I've been involved with games, I won't name coaches, but where coaches simply turn the button off and they just won't turn it back on. And it's a frustrating thing because you're right. Like you get such a limited opportunity. And now, like, even now, the pace that the game is played and how they've shortened timeouts and they've eliminated some timeouts, the game is, and with the pace that the game is played at, it's moving faster than ever, that our producers have such a small window to fit that sound in anyway. And when you only get the stuff you're talking about, you're right. Like, you wish it was juicier. You wish it was a little more inside stuff. But it's cool that we get that access. But you're right. It's sometimes it comes out of the cliche machine a lot.
Jared, I'm going to need you to keep moving the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, keep moving the ball here. No, I know.
Exactly.
But you know what? And I do a bunch of college basketball games, and I sometimes we'll get access, like, in the locker room. And like, oh, we get the coaches to do the locker room. Like, it's no big deal. Like, you know, it's been done before so many times, and it's so staged, unfortunately, that I'm trying to think of new and different things to do. It's not like somebody hasn't seen that before. And no, I mean, I'm just, you know.
No, I feel you. Yeah.
You know, but where are you at right now with getting back to play here finally? And then, I mean, I know going to Florida, and, you know, like, it's coming up, and, you know, who's going to be the 8th seed? And what's the deal with everything? Like, where are you? How do you describe it?
You know, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know for a fact if I'm going. I'm hoping that I'm going. I certainly want to be involved. I know that the cruise, how we're going to do games, is still trying to be decided and figured out. But, you know, I'm looking forward to the fact that we have a league that is willing to think outside the box here and recognize that, obviously, the big elephant in the room is the money, the economic side of things. There's a lot to be lost if we don't finish up this season. And then, you know, there's the basketball side and so many different layers to it. But, you know, you're talking about the Last Dance. What that did was that fueled the flames for more conversation of who's the greatest of all time. And think about how weird that conversation is going to be moving forward if LeBron doesn't get a chance to win another title. And, you know, you can make the argument on either side. You can make an excuse for LeBron, wow, you know, this got ripped away from him. Or, you know, you could say, well, you know, go the other side of it. But either way, you have two LA teams, and you have Giannis, who's, you know, the next great superstar in our league, who are the kind of the three favorites to win the title. On top of the financial impact, you want to give these teams an opportunity here to go win a championship, which, you know, they've played more than 3/4 of the season already to determine seeding.
Do we almost have to just kind of take a, you know, and say, just kind of call it and be like, I get it, totally different. It is what it is. This is how it's going to be, and just get them down. No excuses. Like,
exactly, 100%, because it's everybody's at that unfair disadvantage, and everybody's on the same level coming in. You know, everybody's had the 3 months. Everybody's been quarantined. Nobody's had an advantage over another team. But I would say, you know, what I've been saying is this is not a perfect scenario, but it is the best scenario we have. And we can't live, you know, and I hate to, you know, call out other sports here, but you can't live in this world where it's all or nothing. You have to be able to compromise to do what's best, obviously, for the health and safety of your employees, but also what's best for your consumers. And I think that's what the NBA has recognized, that, you know, there's a lot of fans who are craving this. And listen, you know, from a TV standpoint, we're all kind of licking our chops at this. I mean, the ratings have been down for several years now, and we're all kind of looking at this saying, you know, we play this thing, all eyes are going to be on us. You know, we want good ratings. Well, here they are. They're going to be served up on a silver platter. And then the other part of it, you know, back to just the players, you know, keeping them healthy and safe, and giving them an opportunity to finish up something that they started and worked really hard
for. Quick thought on, like, you know, Howard and Kyrie saying they don't want to get back to play. Yeah. I mean, what do you do when, you know, you got people that are, hey, I don't know about this?
So first and foremost, I respect anybody's opinion. And if you don't think its right to play for whatever reason. We got, again, this is unprecedented circumstances, right? We've got a global pandemic on one hand. We've got incredible social unrest. We've got, Black Lives Matter, that cause taking front and center. And if any of those two reasons or any other reason, you don't feel like being confined into a bubble for however long, then the NBA is telling you, you don't have to do it, right? Like you don't have to go. Now, if it's not a medical reason or it hasn't been agreed upon by team doctors or the team, you're not going to get paid, which I think is the case in most situations. If your job asks you to show up somewhere and you don't want to go and you don't have just cause for not showing up, you don't get paid. On the personal, my own personal feelings are this. And again, I can't speak for anybody else, but I just feel like the NBA has provided and encouraged their players to have such a loud social voice for a long time. And under the guidance of Adam Silver, again, that has been something that not only do they not shy away from, they encourage it. I can't imagine how any player would have more of an impact on a stage where all eyeballs are on them than they would if there's a shutdown. And here's the other part of it too. If the players come together, and this is very important, if the players come together and collectively decide as a whole that they're not going to participate and they're not going to go to Orlando, then a couple of things happen. Number one, as it's written in the collective bargaining agreement, the owners then have the right to rip up the CBA, which then means they not only don't play in Orlando, we could be looking at a lockout for the following season in which all the players, this is one of the most player-friendly collective bargaining agreements in any sport any union has ever gotten, which the NBA players are playing under right now. I'm sure they would like some more things, but in terms of what they got, a nearly 50-50 split of revenue, a lot of other things. If the owners rip this up, a lot of that leverage the players had could be taken away from them. And then the most important aspect of all of this is that not only will the players stop getting paid and not get paid for the future, but then there's a domino and ripple effect for anybody associated with the NBA with getting their money. You're talking about not just the 450 players, or as Kyrie talked about, he's one of the 20 players that actually makes money in this league. No. There are hundreds of thousands of people that, we could play 6 degrees of separation, that because of the NBA, they're able to put food on their table or pay their bills or pay their mortgage. So if the players decide not to go, then there is going to be a consequence for that. And again, if it's individuals saying they don't want to go, fine. But if they determine their health and safety is being taken care of, and they're 100% sure, as it always is the case in the NBA, that their freedom of speech and their platform is there for them to be activists, then I feel like they should go. But again, that's just me speaking.
Makes a ton of sense. Unbelievable point, because you're absolutely right. Unfortunately, they are kind of controlling a lot of people's lives and livelihood at stake,
Yeah.
which you're talking about. So, and I get it. I mean, we're not here to say, oh, it's not safe, or just do it anyway. No, I'm not saying that, but you're absolutely right. It's like, it's a little bit difficult as a regular person or worker at the stadium or whatever to feel bad for somebody making $22 million a year. Now they're only going to get 12 million or 15, or they're not going to get anything. I think they're okay. It's the other people that are going to be majorly affected. Like, you're right. I mean, that's
and there's a lot of, and listen, we always, kind of, and I understand why we do this. We put on a pedestal those guys who are making 20 or 30 or even close to $40 million a year in the NBA. But that's a really small percentage of the guys in the league. The majority of the guys, and listen, I know we're not going to feel bad for anybody who's making $500,000 or $1 million a year, but still, you got to think, for a professional athlete, that's guaranteed to them just for this year, right? Like, there's plenty of guys who are depending on their paycheck next year to feed their family. And whether that's right or wrong or however you feel about it, but that's each individual circumstance. Yes, there's a group of a couple of dozen guys making have made hundreds of millions of dollars, but not everybody has. And in this instance, I'm not even necessarily just talking about the players. There's plenty of people who make way under six figures that are going to be impacted if the CBA is ripped up.
Totally agree. I mean, and that's the thing. I have this conversation with my dad once in a while because he's like, "Oh, the salaries are out of control." And we could sit here for hours and get that, but I get it.
Right.
Seriously, if you are one of the best, like you said, it's not all 300 something players making whatever. I mean, if you're one of the best 50 players, in the world. I mean, right? It's the world. We're coming from all different countries now. I think you deserve to get, that kind of money only because, and I'm not saying for everything or baseball or this and that. I get it. A lot of salaries are out of whack, but CEOs make that. I mean, if you're the CEO of a major company, well, you're one guy. I mean, there's a lot of outliers out there. I love how people use the example of like, oh, Tom Brady was drafted in the 6th round. It's like, I know the greatest quarterback of all time. All right. It's like the one example, or Amazon, Jeff Bezos, like I get it, so, but that's how it is.
And the other part of it too is let's go to the flip side and defend the players here for a second. The reason why they're able to make that much money is because their bosses, who are the owners of the teams, are making way more than that, right? And then the league is making way more than even the owners are making, right? So it's like, people argue against the salaries of professional athletes. Well, why don't you take a look at what the owners make per year, or how much they're worth, or how much they're buying teams for, then flipping them and selling them for. So, the only reason a player is able to make $1 million is because the team is making $100 million.
All right. Hey, not to put you on the spot here with this one, but I mean, and again, not going to be any real fans, but who do you think kind of wins a fan-free championship? With all the stuff going on, if we get this going.
Like one of the things that was most disappointing to me about the season being suspended was that I was so excited for the unpredictable playoffs we were going to come into here. And I felt like I just had no idea what was going to happen in terms of upsets and all that. Ultimately, I still felt like in the West, it was going to come down to the two teams in LA. And I'm just a big believer in what the Clippers have. I think that their depth, their athleticism, their versatility, I really like the Clippers. And then the one X factor here with all of this, is that if the two would have met up, the Lakers and Clippers, in the Western Conference Finals in the normal days and played at Staples Center, every game that the Clippers would have been the home team, they still would have had a crowd of 20,000 Laker fans to play in front. Now, a little bit of an X factor. I don't know if it helps them, but it certainly doesn't help the Lakers that they're on a neutral court and don't get that advantage.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, and that's a sport that does, you do need that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think of some other, like baseball, potential, not so much as, or hockey, I don't know. But I think like basketball and football, fan, interaction and home field advantage.
Energy,
pretty big. Yeah. No, hey, good stuff, man. I mean, hey, hopefully, it does go through because it's like I kind of felt like what you were saying about like college basketball in the NCAA tournament, and that is not going to be able to happen. You know what I mean? That's a tough one to swallow if you're some of those players. Jeez.
Yeah, I feel terrible. Hofstra, my school, first time in 19 years, go to the tournament, and you never know what happens in the tournament. Not that I was thinking they could have won the national championship. I'm not that disillusioned, but I felt like it's a great opportunity, such a great stage for people to be on at the NCAA tournament, that it sucks that those kids didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey man, good to see you. Good catching up, and hope everything goes well and we all get back to play here real soon. So
yeah, man, I enjoyed this. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate you and Jimmy setting this up. Good to see your face and good to talk to you, man.
You too, buddy. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.